Hey gang, welcome back to the southern Philippines. Another beautiful day out here by the ocean. It's low tide. Turn you around and just give you a little peek. Yeah, you can see the tide's gone out here in the late morning. And today I wanted to talk about what it's like leaving the United States or leaving the West, and how really, when you do that, if you come to a place like the Philippines, or if you decide to go become a world traveler, none of your friends, none of your family, they're never going to understand this. And they're going to give you every excuse on the face of the earth as to why you should not take this leap. And so I wanted to talk about that phenomenon. I'd talked to a bunch of people since I've been on the road about it, where they had those conversations with their families. People get really mad. But let's dive right into it and talk about that. So when dealing with family especially, I ran across about 3 different things that would continue to come up over and over again. The first one was, when are you coming back? So everyone knew that I was leaving. I was going to be traveling to different countries. I was going to be basically living a digital nomad lifestyle until I found my first home base, which more than likely was going to be, and has turned out to be, the Philippines as far as Asia goes. And I kept being asked by my parents, by my sisters, by my aunts and uncles, basically anybody that was related to me, when am I coming home? Even once I was on the road, I kept getting, when am I coming home? And as much as I tried to explain over and over and over again that the United States really was not my home anymore, and that I had no intentions to come back, they were just dumbfounded by this. They just can't understand why in the world you would want to leave this wonderful place with this magic soil of the United States. And I would assume other people in different Western countries, such as Australia or the United Kingdom, they may get the exact same thing when they're dealing with their folks. The Americans I've talked to, almost everybody told me the same thing. And I would be given, again, a pattern. Everybody would say the exact same thing. You know, if you're going to go to Albania, you're going to get your head cut off. If you're going to Serbia, they're going to kill you. These are dangerous places. You won't be safe. And they spoke about this with Thailand. They spoke about the Philippines, Serbia, Albania. Every place that I was going and have been apparently were the most dangerous places in the world. It's the farthest thing from the truth. It actually got annoying after a while, because even when I was on the road, they would be telling me how dangerous it is and I need to get back to a safe place. And the nearest metropolitan area to where I lived in the United States, it had a string of violent gun murders over the last really 2 years. Very high considering the population. Am I filming? Yes, I am. Okay, so I would tell them, you know, I've been in XYZ country for 3 months and there's not been a single violent murder in the city that I'm in, period. You've had 30 in the last 4 months. And yet they still somehow think it was safer there. They have massive, you know, shootings all over the place. And for whatever reason, they still think that the United States is safer, even though in the countries I'm at, nothing of the kind is happening. Now, sure, here in the Philippines, they have occasional incidents that occur in the Philippines, sometimes involving tourists, but to be honest with you, it's not very common. When it happens, it makes international news and everybody hears about it and it's very loud, but that's the thing. It is that way because of how infrequent it occurs. So in all of the places that I have been, I felt much more safe than I did in the United States. In fact, I have been a world traveler since I was, realistically, a solo world traveler since I was 19. And in all of my travels, literally 2 times did I ever feel uncomfortable, and one of those was in Italy, was in southern Italy, where there was definitely some people that meant to do me harm, that meant to try to rob me, and that didn't turn out too well for them. But that was the only time in all of my European travels ever that I had that, and I had one time in Asia to where, and nothing happened, but I still felt very aware that I was in a situation that I didn't need to be in, or needed to be in a different area of town. In the United States, that happened all the time. I could go to Atlanta, to various parts of the city at different parts of the day, and feel unsafe. Memphis, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., Chicago, all of those places, there were times where either I felt unsafe or I was very happy that I was carrying a firearm, because bad things do happen there. So the greater world, I mean, unless you're going to a war zone like Yemen or something like that, it's actually in many cases much safer than it was at home. So that's a huge theme, and it honestly gets annoying after a while trying to have to explain to people that, yeah, the country you're feeling so safe in, you feel so safe in because it's your normal. It's the other areas of the world that are actually much safer than they are where you live. Second topic that would come up quite frequently was about you had to be back in the United States. Things were so much better in the United States. And it's hilarious because I would have a conversation, this is after I was abroad, with my parents or my friends, and they would be telling me in the beginning of the conversation how awful things are, that, oh my gosh, the price of gas is up, 3 times the amount it was. Groceries at the grocery store, they're paying so much, it's ridiculous, that their money's not stretching, they're on a fixed income. And I would keep hearing about all these inflationary things in the United States and costs going up, and things that the government were doing and things that the new administration was doing, and how awful and what terrible things were going in the United States. It was just going downhill. And then by the end of the conversation, when we'd switched over to them wanting to complain about me being out in a foreign country, such as the Philippines, is they're telling me, how I need to get back to the United States. And it's like, you've just described a 1984 dystopia, and you want me to come back to that? Because although there are inflationary effects in the Philippines, there were when I was in Thailand, and I'm sure there are now in Eastern Europe where I was at, they were not as great as what we were seeing in the United States. A lot of that's just due to how terrible the supply chains have become in the United States for last-minute fulfillment on there, whereas the rest of the world doesn't really deal with that, and the United States is now paying the price of those last-minute fulfillments, and they're also paying the price of becoming so dependent on cheap junk from abroad rather than manufacturing it at home. But when there were shortages in the United States back last year, and my family was telling me about that, I didn't experience those shortages in Serbia. I didn't experience those shortages in Albania, because most of the food and the things that were produced that I would be consuming were sourced locally. They weren't trucked from across the country. They weren't coming up from Mexico or something. So those are just a couple of the things that I noticed that the families would talk about, the safety issues, how wonderful the magic soil of the United States is. While they're spending 5 times the amount of money I am, and I'm living a better lifestyle on, a quarter or a fifth of what they're spending. The second place that you're going to notice that no one is going to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it is when you're dealing with work or professional associates. And some of them are going to think that's great. They're trying to figure out how you've done it. Have you robbed a bank, or how in the world are you affording this? Because they don't understand geo arbitrage and how you can spend in pesos while you earn in US dollars and go farther. They have no clue about that. They think it's incredibly expensive just to buy tickets to travel the world, let alone to live in a different foreign country. And they're just absolutely wrong and don't know what they're talking about there. And then some of the people that you're dealing with are going to be thinking you've lost your mind. I mean, why in the world would you walk away from whatever professional career you have to go live in some crappy country on the other side of the world, in their opinion? They're completely wrong. They've never been to any of those countries. They don't understand how nice they are and that they have a lot of good things going for them, much more so in many cases than the life that they're living in their home countries. And finally, everybody is going to try to offer you an excuse as to why you can't go become an expat, as to why you cannot go travel the world as a digital nomad. They're going to tell you you can't afford it. They're going to tell you that you can't earn a living. They're going to tell you that it's dangerous. They're going to tell you that logistically it's impossible. They're going to tell you that you have to keep all of your stuff and that you can't sell it all and be without possessions. They will give you every single reason in the world why you can't do what you want to do without offering any constructive advice on how you can do it. Because most of them have lived their entire life in a bubble, and they're uncomfortable getting outside that bubble. When they see your pictures from Thailand and from the Philippines and from Eastern Europe, they're going to be jealous that they're not there. But they will never have the guts to take the leap of faith that you have taken and to educate themselves on how you have educated yourself to make it possible. They simply do not have that in them. You do. And the people that are able to go become expats, the people that are able to go ahead and take that leap of faith and to travel the world and become digital nomads, what they do is they stop making excuses and they start finding solutions on how to make that happen. And that, if you want to do this, is what will separate you from all the naysayers and all of the dreamers, is come up with a plan, take the leap of faith, and make those first steps. It takes courage. It's not easy. Anybody that tells you this is easy is lying to you or trying to sell you something. But I guarantee you that once you're abroad, it's probably easier than what you're doing right now. By the way, make sure that if you like this content, you subscribe so you get more of it later on. And hit the like button so that other people can know that this information is helpful and they can find it and maybe they can change their lives as well. All right, gang, that's it. Remember, when everybody is trying to tell you you can't do this and they're trying to offer you excuses, don't listen to them. Understand that most of them are doing this from a good place. They're doing it because they like you. They're doing it because they care about you. But they're also very much trying to actively stop you from doing what they think is going to ruin your life. When in reality, you're going out to make a life. You're running towards something. So make your plans. You can do it, I promise you. And the worst thing that can happen is that you go abroad, it doesn't work out, and you have to go back to your previous life of working and being unhappy. And then maybe you can save up the money or figure out another way and try to do it again. But I guarantee you this is possible, folks.